I thought I knew him. I thought I was living in a love story. But what if the person you trust most is living a double life? He called me crazy over and over again until the day I followed him. And what I discovered, it shattered everything I believed about love, about trust, and about myself. I used to believe love had a certain feeling, that butterflies in your stomach, that rush when someone looks at you like you're their entire world. And when I met him, I thought, finally, this is it. It all started on an ordinary afternoon. I was sitting in a little cafe, scrolling through my phone, when suddenly, splash. Hot coffee spilled across my table. He was standing there, flustered, apologizing 100 times as he handed me napkins. I should have been annoyed, but instead, I laughed. And when his eyes met mine, warm, deep, with that easy smile, I swear my heart forgot how to beat. "Let me make it up to you," he said, sliding into the chair across from me. "At least let me buy you another drink." That's how it began. A messy accident that turned into hours of conversation. His stories, his charm, the way he made me feel like I was the only person in that crowded cafe, it was intoxicating. From that day forward, he became a part of my life so quickly it felt like fate. The late-night phone calls that lasted until sunrise, the surprise flowers at my office, the way he'd whisper, "You're my forever," when he thought I was falling asleep. It wasn't just the big gestures, it was the little things too. How he'd tuck a strand of hair behind my ear while I was talking. How he'd leave tiny notes in my bag saying things like, "Thinking of you," or "Can't wait to see you tonight." He made me feel cherished, chosen, irreplaceable. My friends noticed how happy I was. "You're glowing," they said. And I was. I thought I had found it, the one thing everyone spends their whole life searching for. And when doubts crept in, he was quick to quiet them. "Don't overthink. You're perfect. We're perfect." So I believed him. I believed in us. Looking back now, I see the signs. The canceled plans with vague excuses, the way he'd silence his phone the second it buzzed, the moments when he seemed a little too guarded. But back then, I brushed it all aside. Love makes you blind, doesn't it? I told myself I was lucky, that I had finally found someone who saw me, who wanted me, who promised me forever. I remember one night especially, he held my hand as we walked under the streetlights and he said, "I don't know how I ever lived without you." And in that moment, I thought my heart might burst from happiness. But now, that memory makes me ache. Because the man who once told me I was his everything would later look me in the eyes and call me crazy. Crazy, as if my love, my questions, my fears were nothing more than delusions. It's strange, isn't it? How the same lips that once whispered, "I love you," can also spit the words that break you. If everything was so perfect, then why did it unravel into betrayal and lies? I used to think I had the answer, but the truth was darker than I ever imagined. The first crack in our perfect love story wasn't loud. It was small, subtle, easy to ignore. It started with a phone call. We were sitting on the couch watching a movie when his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting for just a second, and then he flipped the phone face down. "Who is that?" I asked, casually, trying to sound light. He smirked. "No one important." I pressed just a little. "Then why not answer?" And that's when it happened. The first twist of the knife. His smirk hardened, his voice sharpened. "Why are you snooping? You're acting paranoid." Paranoid. That word sank into me like poison. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't accusing. I was simply asking. But suddenly, I was the problem. I laughed it off at first, brushing it away like maybe I was overreacting. But soon, it became a pattern. He'd come home later than usual, mumbling excuses about long meetings or traffic. Sometimes he'd smell faintly of cologne that wasn't his. Other times, he'd leave his phone in the other room, screen locked, as if he were hiding it from me. And when I asked, "Oh my God, not this again," he'd groan. "You're imagining things. You're too clingy. You're obsessed." Each word chipped away at me. At night, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling while he slept peacefully beside me. My mind would swirl with questions. Where was he really? Who was texting him at midnight? Was I losing him, or was I just losing myself? The more I asked, the more he pushed back. "Seriously, stop acting crazy. You're ruining everything with your nonsense." Crazy. That word became his weapon. And with every sharp syllable, I started to doubt myself more and more. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was too insecure. Maybe I was too needy. So I apologized, again and again, for asking questions, for feeling hurt, for simply wanting reassurance. I apologized for being human. That's the thing about gaslighting. It's like a slow drip of water wearing down a stone. You don't notice how much you've eroded until you barely recognize yourself anymore.
I stopped trusting my instincts. I stopped asking questions. I silenced my doubts, shoving them deep down, because he convinced me they weren't real. But the strange thing is, no matter how much you silence your instincts, they don't go away. They wait, quiet, patient, whispering at the edges of your mind. And mine whispered louder with each passing day, because every smile that didn't reach his eyes, every excuse that didn't make sense, every late night that ended in silence instead of explanation, it all piled up, pressing on my chest, screaming for me to see the truth. But I pushed it down, because he said we were perfect, because he said I was overthinking, because he said I was crazy. And when the person you love most tells you that enough times, you start to believe them. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor one night, hugging my knees, staring at my reflection in the mirror across from me. My face was pale, my eyes hollow, and I whispered to myself, "Am I really losing my mind? Or is he just making me think I am?" The silence answered me, and deep inside, I knew. Something wasn't right. Doubt is a tricky thing. It eats at you slowly until the smallest details feel like flashing warning signs. For me, it started with his shirts. One evening, as I gathered laundry, I noticed a faint lipstick stain on the collar of his white button-down. My breath caught. It was tiny, barely visible, but it was there. When I confronted him, his laugh echoed through the room. "Lipstick? Babe, you're losing it. That's from you last week, remember?" I searched my memory, desperate to believe him. Had it been me? Could I have forgotten? But deep down, I knew. I never wore that shade. Still, his voice was so confident, so smooth, that I dropped it. Then came the receipt. He had left his wallet on the counter one night, and as I tucked it back into his bag, a slip of paper fluttered to the floor. A restaurant bill. For two. Expensive wine, fancy desserts. But the date, it was the same night he told me he was working late. My heart hammered in my chest. I wanted to scream, to demand answers. But when I showed him the receipt, his eyes narrowed, and he sighed dramatically. "Wow, now you're going through my things? This is pathetic. That was a client dinner. I told you about it. But of course, you twist it into something it's not." And just like that, the guilt was mine again. I remember sitting on the edge of our bed one night, receipt still clutched in my hand, my chest heavy with confusion. Why does every road lead back to me being wrong? Why does he always come out clean while I feel dirty for even asking? But the breadcrumbs didn't stop. Late-night text messages, his sudden need to shower as soon as he came home, the way he guarded his phone like it was a vault of secrets. Once, I reached for his phone absent-mindedly to check the time, nothing more,
and he snatched it from me so fast it nearly dropped. His smile tried to mask the panic in his eyes, but I saw it. I felt it. Still, he had an answer ready. Relax, it's just work stuff. Confidential. You wouldn't understand. Confidential. That word lingered like smoke in the air. It wasn't just objects anymore. It was his energy, his absence, even when he was right there. His eyes would glaze over when I spoke. His touch felt distant, his kisses hollow. And the worst part? He started to use my silence against me. When I finally stopped questioning him, thinking maybe that would save us, he twisted it in. Oh, so now you don't even care where I am. You've checked out, haven't you? No matter what I did, ask too much, stay too quiet, it was never enough. The breadcrumbs piled higher, the perfume scent that wasn't mine, the unexplainable charges on his credit card, the weekends he suddenly had to travel for work. Each clue was like a stone in my stomach, weighing me down, pulling me deeper into the truth I didn't want to face. But here's the thing about truth. You can only run from it for so long. Eventually, it catches you. I remember one night vividly. He had fallen asleep, his phone buzzing faintly on the nightstand. My hand trembled as I reached for it, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I didn't even unlock it, just the notification on the screen was enough. A name I didn't recognize, a message that made my blood run cold. Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you. My vision blurred with tears as I set the phone back down, careful not to wake him. My chest ached, my throat burned, my hands shook. This was it. The breadcrumb trail had led me to the truth I had been denying for months. He wasn't just distant. He wasn't just busy. He wasn't just misunderstood. He was unfaithful. And the cruelest part, he had made me feel insane for even suspecting it. The morning after I saw that message, everything felt different. I watched him sip his coffee like nothing was wrong, scrolling through his phone, humming softly under his breath. My chest tightened. How could he sit there so casually, knowing what I had seen?
My hand shook as I buttered my toast. My throat screamed to shout, to demand the truth, to throw the phone in his face. But instead, I whispered to myself, wait, watch, let him reveal himself. Because deep down, I knew, if I confronted him now, he would only twist it again. He'd call me paranoid, crazy. So I let the silence stretch between us. And silence, I discovered, can be louder than any scream. Over the next few days, I observed him like never before. The late-night showers, the excuses about extra shifts, the way his phone never left his pocket, not even when he walked into the bathroom. One evening, I tried to test him. "Hey," I said gently, "maybe we should plan a little getaway. Just the two of us. We haven't had time together in so long." His reaction was sharp, too sharp. He froze mid-bite, fork dangling in the air. "A getaway? Now? Do you have any idea how busy I am?" His voice cracked with irritation, and then he softened it. "Babe, I'd love that, but right now's just not the right time." His eyes flickered. Guilt? Annoyance? I couldn't tell, but the mask slipped, just for a second. And when I saw it, my heart sank. The lies weren't even elegant anymore. They were clumsy, patched together like weak thread holding back an inevitable tear. But I stayed quiet, because I wanted him to think I was still blind. Then the argument happened. It was a Tuesday night, and he came home late. I had been pacing the living room for hours, rehearsing lines, debating whether to confront him. He smelled faintly of perfume when he walked in, sweet, floral, unmistakable. Long day? I asked, my voice steady, but my insides trembling. Yeah, he sighed, dropping his bag carelessly by the door. Work's killing me. Work, I repeated slowly. Do they hand out perfume samples at your office now? His head snapped up. For a moment, pure panic flashed across his face. Then came the shift, the narrowing eyes, the defensive tone. What is this? An interrogation? You've really lost it, haven't you? You're obsessed with catching me in something that doesn't exist. The words stung. He knew exactly where to hit. But this time, I didn't back down. No, I said firmly, surprising even myself. I'm not crazy. I know what I saw, I know what I smell, and I know you're hiding something from me. For the first time, he didn't have a smooth comeback. His jaw clenched, his fist tightened at his sides, his silence filling the room like smoke. And then, just like that, he laughed, cold, hollow, and cruel. You really are something else, he sneered. Always playing detective, always inventing drama. No wonder I stay out late. Who would want to come home to this? His words cut deeper than any confession could. It wasn't just denial, it was disdain. The mask had slipped, and for the first time, I saw the man behind it. Not the charming partner I fell in love with, but someone manipulative, cruel, and unrecognizable. That night, as I lay in bed with him, staring at the ceiling while he scrolled on his phone, I made a vow to myself. I wouldn't beg for his honesty anymore. I wouldn't fight for scraps of love from someone who only gave me lies. If he wouldn't reveal the truth, I would find it myself. And what I found, soon after, was worse than I ever imagined. The night I found the key, I knew everything was about to change. It was wedged at the back of his drawer, taped beneath a folder of old bills. A small silver key, attached to a tag with nothing but an address scrawled in messy ink. My heart nearly stopped when I read it. I had never seen this address before. And in that moment, my breath hitched, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped the key. I knew this was it. This was what he had been hiding. For hours, I sat with the key in my hand, debating with myself. Was I ready for the truth? What if I was wrong? What if this really was just another wild assumption? Another reason for him to call me crazy? But my gut screamed louder than my fear. So the next evening, I followed him. He thought he was clever, taking the longer route, doubling back twice, checking his mirrors as if the whole world was watching him. But he never once suspected me. I stayed just far enough behind, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Finally, he pulled into a quiet part of town. No restaurants, no offices, no familiar landmarks. Just a block of apartments, dimly lit, silent, almost secretive. I watched from my car as he unlocked the entrance, disappeared inside, and never came back out. My pulse thundered in my ears. And then I thought about every time he called me paranoid, every time he made me doubt myself, every time I swallowed my instincts to keep the peace. I couldn't wait another night. So I went back the next day. The key fit perfectly. When the door swung open, my world shattered. The apartment smelled lived in. Not like a man's forgotten crash pad, but a home. There were shoes by the door, heels that weren't mine, a coffee mug still on the table, a throw blanket draped across the couch, and on the wall, photos.
Not of us, not of me, but of him with her. My knees buckled. I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself as the room spun. It was like walking into an alternate reality where I didn't exist, where she was the one who held his smile, his laughter, his affection. There were notes on the fridge, little reminders, inside jokes, things couples write when they're comfortable. Pick up wine. Don't forget Friday night. My fingers traced the handwriting. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't some meaningless affair. This was another life. He wasn't just betraying me. He was living a second love story, while I sat at home waiting for him, believing his lies. I wanted to scream, to rip every photo off the wall, to burn the place down. But instead, I stood frozen, tears burning down my face as a single thought screamed in my head. I wasn't crazy. I was right all along. And yet, knowing the truth didn't feel like victory. It felt like death. I kicked up one photo, a candid of them laughing in a park, her head resting on his shoulder. His smile was wide, genuine, a smile I hadn't seen in months. That's when rage swallowed my sorrow, because he didn't just betray me, he mocked me. Every "you're paranoid," every "stop acting crazy" was just a weapon to keep me blind while he lived a double life. I placed the photo back on the table, my hands steady now. The tears had dried, because something inside me had shifted. I wasn't broken. I was awake. When I walked out of that apartment, locking the door behind me, I already knew what I had to do. The next time I saw him, there would be no hesitation, no silence, no gaslighting. I had the truth, and I was going to make him face it. I didn't sleep that night, not a single second. I sat at the edge of my bed, the photo from his secret apartment burned into my memory. My chest rose and fell with shallow breaths, rage and sorrow twisting inside me like a storm that refused to calm. By the time the sun came up, my decision was made. That evening, when he walked through the door with his usual lazy smile and his too casual, "Hey babe," I didn't even pretend anymore. I was ready. "Where were you last night?" I asked. My voice was calm, too calm. He blinked, caught off guard. "Work. I told you, late shift." "Work?" I echoed, my tone sharp now. I took a step closer, holding his gaze. "Funny, because I was at your other place. You know, the one with the heels by the door, the wine in the fridge, the photos on the wall." His face drained of color. For the first time in months, he was silent. But only for a moment. Then came the smirk, the audacity. "You broke into someone's apartment? Are you listening to yourself? You're insane." There it was again, the gaslighting. The word he had used to break me down. But this time, it didn't work. This time, I laughed. Crazy? No. Crazy is living two lives and thinking I'd never find out. Crazy is calling me paranoid while you play house with another woman. He flinched, his mask cracking under the weight of my words. "Stop," he snapped, his voice rising. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly. You lied to me. You made me doubt myself. You made me hate myself for trusting my own instincts. And all the while, you are sneaking off to your little secret apartment, building a life that didn't include me." His jaw tightened. His fists clenched. His eyes darted away like a guilty child. I pressed harder. "Who is she?" He didn't answer. "Who is she?" I screamed, the words tearing out of me, shaking the walls of our home. Finally, he broke. "She's no one," he muttered. "No one?" I hissed. You don't buy wine and write love notes for no one. You don't frame photos and laugh like that with no one. You don't betray someone who loves you for no one. His silence was deafening. And in that silence, I realized the truth. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't ashamed. He was only sorry he got caught. Tears welled in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not this time. Not in front of him. Look at me, I demanded. Look me in the eyes and tell me I'm crazy. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. His eyes flickered with fear, guilt, maybe even regret. But he couldn't say it because he knew the game was over. For the first time in months, I had the power. And yet, in that moment of victory, all I felt was heartbreak. Because the man standing in front of me wasn't the one I fell in love with. He wasn't the one who held my hand under the stars, who whispered promises of forever, who made me believe in love. That man was gone. This was a stranger. I'm done, I whispered, my voice breaking but steady enough to carry the weight of my truth. He stared at me, shocked, maybe realizing that the power he once held was slipping through his fingers forever. And as I turned away, my body trembling but my spine straight, I knew this was the first step to saving myself. The silence after the confrontation was deafening. He stood there, staring at me as if waiting for me to take it back, to soften, to fold the way I always had before. But I didn't. I couldn't. I had spent too many nights doubting myself, too many mornings shrinking under his accusations, too many years convincing myself that love meant endurance. This time, I didn't waver. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed a bag, and began to pack. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from the weight of release. Every shirt folded, every shoe stuffed into that bag felt like a piece of my old self I was reclaiming. Behind me, his voice finally broke the silence. "You're overreacting. You can't just throw this away." I froze for a second, then turned, meeting his desperate eyes. Throw this away? He hadn't just thrown us away. He had burned us to the ground. "You did that the moment you lied to me," I said, my voice steady. "You did that the moment you chose her, the moment you called me crazy for seeing the truth. You threw us away long before I decided to walk." His mouth opened, but I didn't give him the chance to twist it again. I zipped the bag shut, lifted it onto my shoulder, and headed for the door. Walking away should have felt like freedom, but it hurt. God, it hurt. Every step felt like ripping off a bandage, exposing wounds that had been festering for months. But with every step, I also grew lighter, because this wasn't just about leaving him. This was about leaving behind the version of myself who stayed quiet to keep the peace. The version of myself who believed his lies over my own instincts. The version of myself who thought love meant losing pieces of who I was. When the door slammed behind me, I collapsed against it, tears spilling freely at last. Not because I wanted him back, but because I finally admitted how much I had lost. My trust, my peace, my sense of self. But the difference was, now I knew I could rebuild. That night, I stayed at a friend's place. She didn't ask for details. She just held me while I cried, reminding me with her silence that I wasn't alone. The days that followed weren't easy. I missed the routine, the familiarity, even the lies. My heart ached for the version of him I thought was real, not the man I had unmasked. But slowly, something shifted. I began to hear my own voice again. I went on walks without checking my phone every 5 minutes. I laughed with friends without worrying if he would accuse me of ignoring him. I slept without waking up to check if he was beside me. And every morning, I looked in the mirror and whispered, "You are not crazy. You were right all along." Those words became my mantra, my lifeline. Weeks later, he tried reaching out, texts, calls, promises that it was over with her, pleas for another chance. But I didn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't need his apology. What I needed was me. And I finally had her back. The me who trusted her instincts, the me who knew her worth, the me who refused to shrink for anyone again. Walking away wasn't just leaving him, it was walking back to myself. And for the first time in a long time, I stood tall. He called me crazy, over and over until I almost believed him. But the truth was my salvation. I wasn't crazy. I was right. My intuition, that quiet whisper in the back of my mind, had been screaming for months. I only silenced it because I loved him more than I loved myself. And that was the biggest mistake of all. Looking back, I see it clearly. Every time he brushed off my concerns, every time he made me doubt my own eyes, every time he convinced me I was too much, too needy, too paranoid, what he was really doing was protecting his lie. And what I was really doing was abandoning myself. That's the part of betrayal no one talks about. It isn't just about what they take from you. It's about what you give up trying to hold on to them. I gave up my peace. I gave up my confidence. I gave up my voice. But walking away gave it all back. I can't say it didn't hurt. It did. Betrayal cuts deep. It doesn't just scar you, it reshapes you. But scars are proof you survived, proof you were strong enough to heal. And healing taught me this: never, ever ignore your intuition. It's not paranoia. It's not insecurity. It's the truth trying to save you. So, if you've ever been called crazy for asking questions, for demanding honesty, for trusting your gut, hear me when I say this. You are not crazy. You are aware. You are strong, and you deserve love that doesn't require you to silence yourself. I thought losing him would destroy me, but in the end, it gave me back the one person I should never have lost in the first place. Me. So that's my story. He called me crazy. But now I call myself free.